12-year-old Amara knelt beside the clay pot, scrubbing until her knuckles bled. The courtyard felt smaller each day, as if the walls themselves were closing in around her. She could hear her father's new wife, Nneka, laughing inside the house, that sharp, brittle sound that made Amara's stomach twist into knots. It had been 8 months since Nneka arrived at their compound. 8 months since everything changed. Amara still remembered the day her mother died. The fever had taken her quickly, leaving their home hollow and silent. Her father, Chief Okonkwo, had wandered through the rooms like a ghost for weeks, unable to look at Amara without tears filling his eyes. She looked too much like her mother, everyone said. The same wide eyes, the same gentle smile. Then Nneka appeared. She came to the village claiming to be a distant relative of Chief Okonkwo's mother, seeking shelter after her own husband's death. She was beautiful in a hard way, with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that seemed to see straight through people. Within 2 months, she had become the new wife. Within 3, she had transformed from grieving widow to mistress of the household. Amara. Nneka's voice cut through the afternoon air like a machete. Have you finished with those pots? Almost, Ma. Amara called back, scrubbing faster. Almost is not finished. Your father spoiled you, letting you grow lazy while your mother was alive. But I will teach you what it means to be useful. Amara said nothing. She had learned that silence was safer than words. Her father had changed too. Where he once lifted Amara onto his shoulders and called her his little lioness, he now barely looked at her during meals. Nneka had whispered things to him. Amara had heard them through the thin walls at night. Things about how Amara was becoming wild, disobedient, touched by bad spirits. Things about how the girl needed a firm hand. I only want what's best for our family, Nneka would say, her voice dripping with false sweetness. The child needs discipline, my husband. Your love blinds you to her faults. Gradually, Chief Okonkwo had pulled away from his daughter. The light in his eyes dimmed whenever Amara entered a room, as if he could no longer see her clearly through whatever fog Nneka had created. The other wives in the village noticed. Amara's friend Chioma's mother had pulled the girl aside one day at the market. Be careful, child, the woman had whispered, pressing a small bundle of dried fish into Amara's hands. That woman, there is something wrong about her. The way she looks at you when your father isn't watching, like a hawk watching a mouse. Amara had nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Now, as she finished scrubbing the last pot, she heard Nneka's footsteps approaching. The woman appeared in the courtyard entrance, blocking the sunlight. Your father has gone to the neighboring village for the council meeting, Nneka said. Her voice was different now, colder, without the honey-sweet tone she used when Chief Okonkwo was present. He will not return until tomorrow evening. Something in her stepmother's smile made Amara's blood run cold. Tomorrow is the festival of the ancestors, Nneka continued, moving closer. We must go to the river at dawn to collect the sacred water for the cleansing ritual. Just you and me. The river? Amara's voice came out smaller than she intended. The river was a 3-hour walk from the village, through dense forest. No one went alone. But Ma, shouldn't we ask some of the other women too? Are you questioning me? Nneka's eyes flashed. Or perhaps you think you're too important for such tasks. Your father may have let you behave like a princess, but those days are over.
No, Ma.
I'll come. Good. Nneka's smile returned, but it didn't reach her eyes. We leave before the first cock crows. Don't be late, or you'll regret it. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She lay on her mat, staring at the thatched roof, listening to the sounds of the compound settling into darkness. Something felt wrong. The air itself seemed heavy with unspoken threats. She thought about her mother, whose gentle hands used to braid her hair every evening, who used to tell her stories about the river spirits, the ones who protected good people and punished the wicked, who had made her promise to always be kind, always be brave, no matter what happened. The waters remember everything, her mother had said. They see all truths, my daughter, even the ones we try to hide. In the darkness, Amara touched the small cowrie shell necklace hidden beneath her wrapper, the last gift her mother had given her before the fever took hold. "Please," she whispered to whatever spirits might be listening. "Please watch over me tomorrow." Outside, a night bird called 3 times, a sound the elders said meant change was coming. Whether good or bad, no one could ever tell. Amara finally drifted into uneasy sleep, unaware that in the next room, Nneka sat awake, her face illuminated by a single palm oil lamp. In her hands, she turned over a small clay figure, a crude doll made to look like a young girl. As she twisted its head, her lips moved in silent words, ancient and dark. The river had been calling to Nneka for weeks now, ever since she discovered the truth she could never allow to surface. Chief Okonkwo was wealthy, respected, and his compound would one day pass to his heir. But only if that heir was worthy. Only if that heir was hers. She had seen the way people looked at Amara, with love, with pity, with protective concern. The girl was a living reminder of the beloved first wife. As long as she lived, Nneka would always be second. Always be the outsider. Always be the one who came after. But rivers were deep and currents were strong. Accidents happened, especially to careless children who wandered too close to the edge. Nneka smiled in the lamplight, already composing the tragic tale she would tell the village. How she had warned the girl to be careful. How Amara had been disobedient, as always. How the poor child had slipped on the wet rocks despite her stepmother's desperate attempts to save her. They would believe her. Chief Okonkwo would believe her. And in his grief, he would turn to his new wife for comfort, for solace, for the son she had already promised to give him. The lamp flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls that looked almost like reaching hands. Tomorrow, Nneka thought, everything would change. Tomorrow, the river would solve all her problems. The world was still draped in darkness when Nneka shook Amara awake. The girl startled, disoriented, her heart already racing before she remembered where she was. "Get up," Nneka hissed. "We're late already." Amara scrambled to her feet, wrapping her cloth around her waist with trembling fingers. Through the window, she could see that the sky hadn't even begun to lighten. The compound was silent except for the chirping of crickets. "But Ma, the cock hasn't crowed yet. Do you want to question me again?" Nneka's voice was ice. "Or shall I tell your father how disobedient you've become?" Amara swallowed her words and followed her stepmother into the pre-dawn darkness. They walked in silence through the sleeping village. Amara kept glancing back at her home, at the familiar compound walls, feeling as if she were leaving something important behind. The cowrie shell necklace felt warm against her skin, almost pulsing with each step. Once they passed beyond the last house, the forest swallowed them whole. The path to the river was narrow and overgrown. Branches caught at Amara's wrapper, and roots seemed to reach up to trip her feet. Nneka moved ahead with surprising speed, her figure appearing and disappearing between the trees like a shadow. "Keep up," she snapped whenever Amara fell too far behind. "Or I'll leave you here for the leopards." As they walked deeper into the forest, Amara became aware of strange things. Birds that should have been singing their morning songs were silent. The usual rustle of small animals in the underbrush was absent. Even the insects seemed to have gone quiet, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. "Ma," Amara ventured after an hour of walking, "why do we need to go so far? There are closer streams." "The sacred water must come from the crossroads of 3 rivers," Nneka interrupted without turning around. "Where the Omambla meets the Azu and the Niger. That is where the ancestors' spirits gather. Surely your mother taught you that." She hadn't. Amara's mother had always collected water from the village stream. But Amara didn't dare say so. The sky was beginning to lighten when they finally heard it, the sound of rushing water. The forest opened up ahead, and Amara caught her first glimpse of the river. It was magnificent and terrifying all at once. 3 rivers met here, their waters creating a swirling pattern of currents and eddies. The meeting point formed a natural pool, deep and dark, surrounded by smooth black rocks that glistened with spray. Ancient trees bent over the water like elderly guardians, their roots exposed and twisted along the banks. There was something else too. Something Amara couldn't quite name. The air here felt different, thicker, charged with an energy that made the hair on her arms stand up. She could almost feel eyes watching from the depths of the water. "Come," Nneka said, her voice suddenly gentle again. Too gentle. "We'll fill the gourds here." She handed Amara 2 large calabashes and pointed to the water's edge. "Kneel on that flat rock there, see it? The one that extends over the deepest part. The water is purest there." Amara looked at the rock. It was wet, covered in green moss, and jutted out over water, so dark it looked like liquid night. Below its edge, the 3 currents met in a churning whirlpool. "Ma, it looks slippery. Must you always be so fearful?" Nneka's voice had that edge again. "Do you think you're too precious for a little hard work? Your mother would be ashamed." The word struck like a slap. Amara's eyes burned with tears, but she blinked them back. Carefully, she made her way to the rock, testing each step. The moss was indeed slippery beneath her feet. Behind her, Nneka waited, her hands hidden in the folds of her wrapper, fingers wrapped around a smooth river stone she'd picked up. One push. That's all it would take. One push, and the girl would disappear into that swirling darkness. The currents here were notorious. Even strong swimmers were pulled under. A small girl would sink like a stone. Amara crouched at the edge of the rock, lowering the first calabash toward the water. The surface was closer than she'd expected, and when her calabash broke through, something strange happened. The water rippled outward in perfect circles, but instead of fading, the ripples began to glow with a faint blue light. Amara gasped, nearly dropping the calabash. "What are you waiting for?" Nneka called, moving closer to the rock. "Fill it and move on." But Amara couldn't move. The glowing ripples had formed into shapes, no, into faces. Dozens of them, looking up at her from beneath the surface. Women's faces, old and young, with eyes that held both sadness and knowing. And then she heard it. A voice. No, many voices, speaking as one, rising from the water like mist. "Daughter of tears, daughter of the pure heart, we have been waiting." Amara's calabash slipped from her hands and floated on the surface. Who's there?" Nneka froze behind her, the stone heavy in her hand. She couldn't hear the voices, but she saw the glowing water, saw the unnatural light dancing across Amara's frightened face. "We are the river keepers," the voices continued, growing stronger. "We are the mothers who came before. We are the waters that remember all truths." "I don't understand," Amara whispered. "The woman behind you carries murder in her heart. She has brought you here to silence you forever, to take what is yours and make it hers." Amara's blood turned to ice. Slowly, she began to turn her head. Nneka saw the girl beginning to move, saw understanding dawning on her face. There was no more time for subtlety. With a snarl of rage, she lunged forward, the stone raised high. But the rock beneath Amara's feet seemed to shift. The girl stumbled backward, falling, not into the water, but onto the bank, as if invisible hands had pulled her to safety. Nneka, unable to stop her momentum, crashed forward onto the mossy rock. Her feet slipped. Her arms windmilled wildly. And then she was falling into the dark water where the 3 rivers met. Amara scrambled to her feet, watching in horror as her stepmother hit the surface. But instead of sinking, Nneka seemed suspended there, held by the currents. The glowing faces surrounded her, their expressions now severe and judging. "Nneka of the hollow heart," the voices thundered. "Nneka who came from nowhere, who speaks in false tongues, who carries darkness in her soul. The waters will now speak your truths." The river began to glow brighter, and in its light, Amara saw something impossible. Images rising from the water like smoke, playing out scenes as clear as day. She saw Nneka in a different village, standing over an old woman's body, poison dripping from a cup. She saw Nneka taking gold, taking land deeds, taking everything from the woman who had trusted her. She saw Nneka fleeing before dawn, leaving destruction behind. She saw her stepmother arriving at Chief Okonkwo's compound, lies already forming on her tongue. No! Nneka screamed from the water.
No!
These are lies. River demons. Evil spirits. But the waters weren't finished with their revelations. The glowing images continued to rise from the river like ancestral memories refusing to stay buried. Amara stood paralyzed on the bank, unable to look away from the terrible truths unfolding before her eyes. She saw Nneka's real past, not the sad widow's tale she'd told Chief Okonkwo, but something far darker. The woman had been married before, but her husband hadn't died of illness as she'd claimed. The waters showed him falling from a ladder while repairing their roof, Nneka standing below with a smile on her face and a freshly sawed rung in her hands. They showed her stealing from the elderly aunt who had taken her in as a child, the same aunt whose mysterious death had left Nneka with a small inheritance. They showed her moving from village to village, always arriving as a victim, always leaving as a thief. But the worst revelation was yet to come. The water's surface shimmered, and Amara saw herself. She was younger in this vision, maybe 5 or 6 years old, playing in her mother's garden. And there was her mother, healthy, vibrant, alive. Amara's heart clenched at the sight of that beloved face. Then she saw Nneka. The vision showed her stepmother arriving at the village market months before Amara's mother fell ill. She watched Nneka observing Chief Okonkwo's family from a distance, her eyes calculating, measuring. She saw Nneka following her mother to the stream, striking up a conversation, offering friendship. "No," Amara whispered. "Please no." But the waters were merciless in their truth-telling. The images showed Nneka visiting their compound regularly, bringing gifts, earning trust. They showed her adding something to the soup she'd brought one day, something from a small leather pouch hidden in her wrapper. They showed Amara's mother growing sick days later, the fever that the healers couldn't understand, couldn't cure. They showed Nneka at the funeral, crying false tears, comforting Chief Okonkwo, while planning her next move. "You killed her." Amara's scream echoed across the water. "You killed my mother." In the river, Nneka thrashed against the currents that held her suspended. Her face had transformed from beautiful to grotesque, twisted with rage and fear. "Lies," she shrieked. "River demons. The child is possessed. Someone help me." But there was no one to help. They were alone in this sacred place, with only the spirits as witnesses. The river keepers' voices rose again, and this time, their tone carried the weight of judgment. Nneka of the poison cup. Nneka of the false tears. Nneka of the murdered mothers. You came to these waters to commit another evil. You came to silence the innocent and steal what was never yours. The water around Nneka began to change. It grew darker, thicker, rising up around her like liquid hands. But these waters remember. These waters know. These waters protect the pure-hearted and punish the wicked. "Please." Nneka's voice had changed from angry to desperate. "I'll leave. I'll go away and never come back. Just let me go." The voices didn't respond to her pleas. Instead, they addressed Amara, daughter of Chioma the gentle heart, child of the worthy line. "Your mother walks among us now. She asked us to watch over you, to protect you from the darkness that would come." Tears streamed down Amara's face. "My mother's there? In the water?" "She is with the ancestors. She is with the river keepers. She has always been watching you, little one. And she has one message for you." The water shimmered again, and this time, a single figure emerged from the glowing depths. Amara's breath caught in her throat. It was her mother. Not as she'd been at the end, wasted by fever and pain, but as Amara remembered her best, strong and beautiful, with love shining in her eyes. The figure was translucent, made of water and light, but unmistakably real. "Mama," Amara sobbed. The water figure of her mother smiled, and when she spoke, her voice was the sound of gentle rainfall. "My brave daughter. My little lioness. I am so proud of you. I miss you so much. I know, my heart. I know. But you must be strong now. Your father has been blinded by grief and lies, but he still loves you. The truth will set him free.
How?
How can I make him believe me? The waters will help you. Trust in the river keepers. Trust in the truth. And trust in yourself. The figure began to fade, dissolving back into the river. Mama, don't go. Please. I am always with you, my daughter. In every stream, every rain, every drop of water. Remember, the truth always rises to the surface, just like water always finds its way. Then she was gone, leaving only the glowing ripples behind. Amara fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. All the months of grief, of fear, of lonely suffering poured out of her in great heaving cries. The river keepers let her weep, their presence a comforting embrace around her. In the water, Nneka had stopped struggling. The dark currents had wrapped around her like chains, holding her in place. Her face had gone pale with terror. What are you going to do to me? She whispered. The voices answered, cold and final. You will carry your sins for all to see. You will speak only truth, no matter how much you wish to lie. You will return to the village, and you will confess everything you have done.
No.
I'll run away. I'll never go back. You will have no choice. The waters commanded. The glowing light suddenly flared bright, so bright that Amara had to shield her eyes. She heard Nneka scream, a sound of pure anguish that echoed through the forest. Then, just as quickly, the light faded. When Amara could see again, Nneka was standing on the bank, dripping wet. But she looked different. Her skin had taken on a strange, pale sheen, almost translucent. And on her forehead, visible to anyone who looked at her, was a mark, a dark symbol that looked like 3 rivers meeting. What have you done to me? Nneka raised her hands to her face, feeling the mark. What is this? The mark of the river's judgment, the voices said. All who see it will know you for what you are, and you will confess your crimes to Chief Okonkwo and the village elders. You will speak every truth, and you will not be able to stop yourself. Nneka opened her mouth to protest, to curse, to lie, but what came out instead was the truth. I killed Chioma, she said, her voice flat and emotionless, compelled by forces beyond her control. I poisoned her, so I could take her place. I planned to kill Amara today. I am a murderer and a thief. Her hands flew to her mouth, but the words had already escaped. Tears of fury and desperation streamed down her face. The river keepers spoke one last time. Return to the village, both of you. Let justice be done. And Amara, daughter of truth, never forget that you are protected. The waters will always watch over you. The glowing light faded completely, leaving only normal river water rushing past. The faces were gone. The voices were silent. But everything had changed. The walk back to the village was nothing like the journey out. Nneka stumbled ahead, her wet clothes clinging to her skin, the mark on her forehead visible even in the dappled forest light. She kept trying to speak, to craft a lie, to create a story that would save her, but every time she opened her mouth, only the truth came out. I never loved your father, she said suddenly, the words dragging themselves from her throat against her will. I only wanted his wealth and position. Amara walked behind her, still numb from everything she'd witnessed. Her mother's face kept appearing in her mind, that gentle smile, those words of love and encouragement. The grief was still there, sharp as ever, but it was mixed with something else now. Something like purpose. I hated you from the moment I saw you, Nneka continued, unable to stop herself. You looked so much like her. Everyone loved you. I wanted you gone. Why are you telling me this? Amara asked, though she already knew. Because I can't stop. Nneka whirled around, her face contorted with rage and fear. Because these cursed spirits have stolen my voice. Everything I think comes out as truth. They emerged from the forest as the sun reached its peak. The village was alive with activity. People preparing for the festival of the ancestors, setting up decorations, cooking food. The first person to see them was old Mama Ngozi, the village healer. The elderly woman took one look at Nneka's mark and gasped. The mark of the river's judgment, she whispered, making a protective sign. I have not seen such a thing in 40 years. Other villagers began to gather, drawn by Mama Ngozi's reaction. They stared at Nneka, at the strange, translucent sheen of her skin, at the dark symbol on her forehead. What happened? Someone asked. Where is Chief Okonkwo? Still at the council meeting, another answered. He returns this evening. Nneka tried to stay silent, tried to press her lips together and keep the truth inside. But the river keeper's curse was too strong. I tried to murder Amara today, she announced to the growing crowd. I took her to the river to push her in and drown her. Shocked gasps rippled through the villagers. Amara's friend Chioma's mother pushed through the crowd and pulled Amara close, examining her for injuries. Are you hurt, child?
No, Auntie.
The river keepers protected me. The river keepers? Mama Ngozi stepped closer, her old eyes sharp with interest. Tell us everything, child. Leave nothing out. So Amara told them. She told them about the journey to the Crossroads of Three Rivers, about the glowing water and the voices. She told them about the visions that had revealed Nneka's true nature, about seeing her mother's spirit, about the judgment that had been passed. As she spoke, Nneka stood silent, unable to deny a single word. And when Amara finished, the crowd turned to Nneka with expressions of horror and disgust. Is this true? Mama Ngozi demanded. Did you poison Chioma? Nneka's mouth opened, and the truth poured out like water from a broken jar.
Yes.
I poisoned her with root extract from the bitter cassava, mixed with the venom of the green mamba snake. I bought it from a dark medicine man 3 villages away. I put it in the soup I brought her. I watched her die slowly over 3 weeks, pretending to care, pretending to help. And I felt nothing but satisfaction. The crowd erupted in angry shouts. Several men moved forward as if to seize her, but Mama Ngozi raised her hand.
No.
We wait for Chief Okonkwo. He must hear this from her own lips. He must witness the river's judgment himself. They took Nneka to the village square and made her sit in the center, surrounded by witnesses. She tried again and again to flee, but her legs wouldn't obey. The river keeper's magic held her in place like invisible chains. As the afternoon wore on, more truths spilled from her lips. She confessed to stealing from the village women while pretending to befriend them. She admitted to spreading lies about Amara to turn Chief Okonkwo against his own daughter. She revealed her entire history of murder, theft, and deception. By the time the sun began to set, the whole village had gathered. And when Chief Okonkwo finally appeared on the road from the neighboring village, they were waiting. He saw the crowd first, then Nneka sitting in the center, with that terrible mark on her forehead. His face went pale. What is this? What has happened? Papa. Amara ran to him, and for the first time in months, he caught her in his arms without hesitation. Something about seeing his wife marked by the river keepers, something about the fear in the crowd's eyes, had broken through Nneka's spell over him. Amara, are you hurt? What happened? Mama Ngozi stepped forward. Chief Okonkwo, your wife has been judged by the river keepers and found guilty of terrible crimes. She must confess to you herself. Chief Okonkwo looked at Nneka, and even from a distance, he could see that she was different.
Changed.
Marked by something beyond human understanding. Nneka? Is this true? And then, because she had no choice, Nneka told him everything. She told him about murdering his first wife, about planning to kill his daughter, about every lie she had ever spoken to him, every manipulation, every false tear. Chief Okonkwo's face crumbled as he listened. He held Amara tighter, as if afraid she might disappear. When Nneka finally fell silent, he was crying, great, wrenching sobs that shook his entire body. Chioma, he whispered. My Chioma. What have I done? How could I have been so blind? It wasn't your fault, Papa, Amara said, though her own tears were flowing freely. She tricked you. She tricked everyone. The village elders conferred quietly, then announced their judgment. Nneka would be exiled from the village immediately. She would be taken to the forest boundary and released to wander, carrying the river's mark for all to see, compelled to speak only truth for the rest of her days. As the men led her away, Nneka looked back at Amara one last time. Her eyes held no remorse, only hatred and defeat. "The waters will always watch you," she said, and this time the words were her own, not compelled by magic. "But waters can only protect you so far, girl. Someday, you'll have to face the world without them." "Then I'll face it the way my mother taught me," Amara replied, standing tall despite her fear. "With truth, with courage, and with kindness." Nneka was taken away, and the village never saw her again. Some say she wandered from place to place, unable to settle anywhere because her mark revealed her nature to all who saw it. Others say the river keepers eventually claimed her completely, pulling her back into the waters to serve as a warning to those who would harm the innocent. That night, Chief Okonkwo sat with Amara in their compound, holding her hand as they watched the stars emerge. "I'm sorry, my little lioness," he said. "I'm so sorry I failed you. I let grief blind me. I let her poison my mind against you. You're here now, Papa. That's what matters. Tell me about the river. Tell me about seeing your mother." So Amara told him everything, and as she spoke, she felt the weight she'd been carrying for 8 months finally begin to lift. Her father was back. The truth was known. And her mother, watching from the waters, could finally rest in peace. The next morning, during the festival of the ancestors, Amara went to the village stream to collect water for the cleansing ritual. As she knelt beside the water, she saw her reflection, and just for a moment, she saw another face beside her own. Her mother's face, smiling with pride and love. The water rippled gently, and Amara heard a whisper in the sound of flowing water. "Well done, my brave daughter. Well done." Amara smiled through her tears and filled her calabash with clean, clear water. The river had spoken. The truth had won. And she was finally, truly home.